Hey, what's up? My name is Sackless, and today we're going to be doing a guide on lights. This isn't going to be a very exact tutorial, but more of how lights work, how to use them in your world, and what are some really cool ways that you can use them. Plus some of the the lesser known features of lights. So, I bet you've made a world, a dark world, like the one you're seeing right now. Hopefully you can even see this world very well. And it's just dark, and that's usually good, but sometimes you simply need some light. And that's not a problem. Project Spark has added lights, but when you place down a fire, or you place down a, like a hanging lantern like that, it doesn't give off any light. It just looks like it should be giving off light. But that's not how light is actually projected. So here, check this out. I'm gonna flip this lever, and it all lights up. How cool is that? I'm gonna turn that off. You can also do things like make yourself a flashlight, or shoot a projectile with a light attached to it. Let's see if I can get a long shot. There we go. There's lots of cool things you can do with lights. So, let's get into it. Now, when you grab something like a fireplace and throw it into your world, you can ignore the stuff over there. This is like my screw around world, the world that nothing important happens and I just mess around with it. Place this fireplace. There's no light coming off of it. There's a fire, but no light. What you need to do is you need to go into your objects and search for light. And you will find a light bulb. This is an invisible object, the light bulb itself, that projects light. The light it projects is not invisible, but this bulb itself is. Now, if you want it to be visible, like say you actually want a prop, then you'd go here, visible on. And if you don't want it projecting light, then you turn its intensity to 0. That's how you'd get a raw light bulb prop. But that's not what we're working with right now. What we're working with is light itself. Now first, I'm going to run you through the features of how the light functions. So, we've placed our light, and we can see it's kind of made a radius about that size of light. Let's go into its properties, go to appearance. Now, if you want to change the color of the light, you'd think you'd go right here and change it, but no, that just changes the color of the bulb itself. It's not a bad idea to change the color of the bulb itself if you're trying to keep things trying to keep track of things. But you actually need to go into the light. Now these are all the different features the light gives you. Let's say you want it to be kind of an orangey red like the fire would be. There you go. Now I will say right now, the more subtle you make your colors, the better they'll look. Like if you do this, that's not going to look nearly as good as about that. Now, this is the behavior. This is how the light will actually look, pulse, flash, whatever. Stable means there's one solid light. There's no flashing, there's no flickering, there's nothing. Flickering is a fire-like flicker. If you watch carefully, it flickers, and that is super nice to put over a fireplace like the one we're using right now. Wave pulse is a very smooth, gradual pulse from 100% to, I don't know, like 50% or something like that. Square pulse is not smooth. It's more of a toggle on, toggle off. It doesn't, well, it looks like it completely turns the light off. Linear pulse is like wave, but wave, I don't know if you can see, it kind of like speeds up and then slows down, speeds up, slows down. Linear is very, it's hard to describe it. Pretty much linear and wave are almost the same thing, except wave looks like it's got a little more energy behind it, and linear doesn't change pattern at all. And then we're back to stable. So those are the 4 different waves, patterns, behaviors you can use. Next, let's get to intensity. Intensity is how bright your light is. The higher this raises, the brighter it gets. And it doesn't take much for the light to get washed out. Like, let me put this to 10. Can I even go to 10? I can't go to 10. That is washed out. That is horrific. Pretty much if I see this light in somebody's world, I'm done with that world. This is ugly. There's a couple very, very specific reasons you can use this, but those are some very specific reasons. I would be cautious using intensity because you can wash something out really fast. Range is how far your light casts. This has nothing to do with intensity. This just shows how far your light is casting. So let me put this to, I don't know, 200. I have light way out there. Now let's put it to 1,000. Now the entire world is lit. Well, if you made it an absolutely massive world and everything wouldn't be lit. But Now something we need to look at right now is that the shadows, especially from the terrain, will react from the perspective of that light. So, like over here, you've got a sharp shadow. Now this isn't perfect because in reality all this would be black, but you'll get some crazy looking highlights and crazy looking shadows. I would not recommend lighting your world from one light bulb, trying to treat it as if it was a sun. But it is possible, and it gives a very interesting effect. Let's go back into its properties. Let's bring this back down to 10. Next, pulse speed, pulse phase. These are just two different numbers you can play with to change how fast and how frequently it pulsates. I'm not going to go into great detail on that. And then color shows the color of the light. Now I'm going to give you a cheat right now. This is something that designers use and painters use to get a whiter than white look, because right now it looks pretty white, right? Now, interestingly enough, despite what stereotypes or what your eyes may tell you, sunlight is a blue light. It's a very hot light. I could go into the very technical specifics on this, but sunlight's a hot light, which makes it a blue light. So if you want it a whiter than white light, you add a little bit of blue. Not much, but a little bit of blue, and that will make it look like sunlight or whiter than white. That's a little cheat right there that you guys now know, but I'm going to leave it a white for now. So that's pretty much the basics of how light bulbs work. Now, sometimes we don't always want the light bulb on. Like I showed you right here, the light bulb can turn on and off. That's pretty easy to do. Same as special effects, light bulbs are only on, oh, not brain editor, when there is power applied to it. All light bulbs default to power on. When you turn the power off, it no longer projects. Now this, if you want the light bulb to start off, you can tick it off and then leave it and then change it in code. That doesn't permanently set its function, it just sets how it defaults. So then you can use code to change it from there. So, I grabbed this lever, and this lever is pre-coded to when interacted, toggle has power. Now, we can use, I'm actually going to delete this so I can redo it. Gotta take a new lever, no code change whatsoever, throw it on the ground. Now I'm going to grab the power tool, and I'm going to click it, and I'm going to get this like rope, and I'm going to attach it to this farthest light bulb out here. If I can get a good angle without catching any of the accessories around it. Trigger it, and now when I hover over it, it shows light is being cast toward this object. Now I'm going to do that for all 3 light bulbs. When it gets done saving. Alright, right, come on. There. Alright, so let me test the world. As you can see, the fireplace doesn't have any light because I turned the light on the brain off. But then, all 3 lights tick on. Now, there are some objects, and these are just random objects in the world that you'll have to play with to find, that give the appearance of light when they're powered on, such as these hanging metal lanterns. I'm not remember. See, what are they called? What are they called? What are they called? Hanging lantern. These things right here. Oh yeah, it's worth noting. To do the effect I did with the lever, I turned all these lights, their default power, to off when I started. But these lanterns, when they're powered, they turn on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna power the lanterns now, because this way it gives a visual hint that there's light being projected from the lanterns themselves. They don't actually project light. The light bulbs do all the heavy lifting. They just take the credit for it. So let's hop in and take a look at it. See, now it looks like they're actually turning on. This adds a lot more visual interest and looks so much better this way. So I'd recommend doing that. You can also do the same effect with a effect like a torch, because torches, and well, all effects in general, are required to be powered on to do their effect. So you can have them turn their power off and then toggle them back on to light up. So those are some of the main key features of a light. Now I'm going to show you how to do a really quick flashlight. This isn't a great flashlight, but what I did is I went, oh, I'm still on power. I went to the character studio, attachments, add new light bulb, and I attached it to backside, positioned it right there. So I have this attachment. I'm going to pull it a little farther out, a little higher up, like that. And I'm not actually going to change any of its properties. I'm going to go into my player and do a really simple bit of code. When I delete this code, what we're going to do, when I like to use the D-pad for this, D-pad right pressed, let's see, toggle, and then a Boolean variable flashlight. If you're scared of Boolean variables, if you're still new to Project Spark and you don't get how this works, don't worry. You can ignore what I'm doing right now, or you can just follow along exactly. Okay, when flashlight equals true, we're going to go to attachments, power on. Now we're also going to do copy and paste that line. When false, power off. Now I just created a handy dandy little flashlight that I can toggle on and off whenever I want. See? Not a bad idea to add a click sound when you do that. I actually made a horror world a while back. It didn't get very popular, but where it kind of centered around a completely pitch black world and your flashlight, which the battery very quickly ran out of. So you had to go down this path to try to find more batteries to keep your flashlight on, and there are objects in the world that try to scare you or kill you, and some of them would try to drain your flashlight faster. It was a cool dynamic. At least I thought so. Apparently nobody else thought so. Actually, I don't need to look at this player anymore. There's a couple other things I want to show you. Let's say you're working with a pitch black world. So let's say you paused the world, went to world settings, and instead of night clear, you went pitch black sky, which is such a cool ambiance and effect. I freaking love working with this. Really haven't had a chance to work with it much, but you'll immediately notice a problem. You can't work in this. It's black. I can't find models. I don't know where trees are. So we're going to add a behind the scenes light. We're going to go way up in the air, put a light bulb down. Not doing a ton right now. Going to go into this light bulb's brain. Appearance, light, intensity. I'm going to put this all the way to 10. No, I'm not. I'm going to put it to 5. I don't want the whole world washed out. The range, we're going to put this bad boy all the way to 1,000. Okay, so it looks like the intensity's too high. There we go. You know what? That's even still too high. Let's do 0.5. There we go. Now the whole world is very well lit by this light bulb. It kind of has a weird look to it, but you know what? I think it works for the sake of building. Now, you really don't want this thing to be lighting up your pitch black world, so you're going to go into code and do power off. This way, while the world is loading, it says, oh wait, that light bulb's not supposed to have power, so we're not going to give it power. So the world is still pitch black. Turn on your flashlight and run around all scary like. Go back to editing, and the world is lit up and ready to be built in. No problem. So I'm going to delete that. Change the world setting back to night clear. And there's one last thing, and I'm actually going to change this to daylight. This is something I didn't know about for the longest time. I haven't found a great purpose for it yet, but you know what? I bet I could find one if I put my mind to it. I think this would be cool to attach to a supervillain in a world, for instance. You can go into this brain, and while it casts light, that's not the only thing it casts. You can take this intensity. If you notice, the intensity meter is at 1, but the bar is almost completely full, which means you can do -1 and cast darkness. How cool is that? I mean, that is awesome. You could do -10 and cast, like, completely pitch black darkness. But for now, I'm just going to do -1. That's scary. I mean, you're straight up have a portable shadow with you as well. That's another thing you could use it for, I guess, as a portable shadow. But if I had this attached to my character, now the flashlight kind of makes it go away. When it walked around, it'd be literally casting darkness. I mean, how cool is that? I think that could be used to really cool effect. So, that's pretty much it. One last thing. I took a little sphery ball spark like this. Hang on. Took that. Took a light bulb like that. Attach these two bad boys together. Like that. Make sure they're attached. Yep, they are. Go into the brain. Go to template true. Go to my playable character. Go down to my shooting properties. And in-world picker, this little group. Watch this. This would be even cooler to use in a completely pitch black world. You can shoot projectiles with lights attached to them. And it makes that projectile look like it has so much more power when it's casting its own light. And it can also work functionally. You can actually use your projectile to light your world up. So, that is a very quick guide on how to use lights. Well, you know, quick being 16 minutes. But lights are a very complex thing. And they're very effective to use. I really enjoy using them. They're some of my favorite things in Project Spark. So, a couple of final tips. Don't wash out your scene. That is probably the worst thing you can possibly do with lights. If you're going to have multiple lights in a row, like what I had with these lanterns, keep them well spaced apart. This isn't Minecraft. There's not going to be mobs spawning in the darkness. It's okay to have dark patches. People are okay walking in darkness so long as they're walking toward light. Because if you stack even dull lights on top of each other, then it'll wash out your scene really quick. So, I hope this guide was helpful. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys